So I think that's understanding. Good afternoon. Yes. Let me welcome us to B307. As we want to start, so that we'll be able to utilize our time. I want to invite all the our friends here. We have Isabella. Are you okay? Yeah. You okay? Yeah. Sorry for that. Please come to this. We also have Ngozi Ezenabu. Ngozi Ezenabu. We have Sheun Okwande. Sheun Okwande. We have Sunday Layola before myself. And we have Nathaniel Ogunyale. Yes. Okay, sir. Once again, I want to welcome us to this panel. Our presenters are here. I don't know whether do we have anybody online? Online, okay. Thank you. Yeah, we will not keep ourselves waiting because our time starts now. And I will appeal to us to wait until all the presenters have presented their paper. And after their presentation, we take up our question and answer and our intervention. So I will call on the first presenter. So let me call it Dara Edo.
Yeah, sorry.
And Ezemoye, if I get that correct. Our topic is intergenerational traditional disconnectedness, a discourse on Inkinta-Anya Awuwa practice in Umojesi. Umojesi. Over to the time is 15 minutes.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. There are an and I'm presenting a paper titled Intergenerational Traditional Disconnectedness, a discourse on the Inkinta-Anya practice in Umojesi. Umojesi is one of the 6 villages that make up Idato South. The Inkinta-Anya traditional practice started well over 350 years ago. Yes, from the research I carried out over 350 years ago. And that practice continued until 2010 when it was discovered. Now, the practice is or was basically about childbirth and the issues that surrounded it. The practice started with a man in Umojesi community who was from a very poor background or family. He had no family, he had no parents, he had no siblings. So he was all alone. and the community conspired against him and instituted this Nkitanya Homer practice. He was mandated, he got married, and in fact, it was believed that he wouldn't or couldn't amount to anything. But fate smiled on him. He was able to get married, and his wife bore a son. And so, in the process of that, his community, that's Moji's community, conspired against him and instituted this Nkitanya Homer practice, insisting that before he could see the male child, he must present a dog to some elders in the community. Of course, he couldn't afford to buy a dog. This is somebody that could barely fend for himself. So it took him a long time to get money to purchase the dog. His wife had put to bed. He couldn't see that child. The child was taken away from him. So eventually he was able to purchase the dog and present to the elders of the community. And in that state of anger and frustration, he laid a curse on the Umojisi community that since this practice has been put in place because of him, it must extend to every man in the community. So whoever gets to the age of marriage and marries a wife, and the wife bears a son, must present a dog to the others of the community. And failure to do so, the resultant effect will be death. So he did that and died. Years went by, and people didn't really take into consideration this pronouncement he made before he died, and deaths started occurring. People who went against this practice, the men who married and their wives bore male children, and they refused to buy this dog and present to the others of the community, lost their lives. The father will die, the male child will die. So it continued for years. And out of fear, the bachelors in the community left. They flee. A good number of them, flee the Umojisi community, relocated to other towns and villages. So all of this continued until 2010, when a good number of the people came together and decided that this practice cannot continue. Of course, it is not a good one. A lot of lives were lost. And so they decided this traditional practice can no longer continue. Churches swung into action and then made moves, through prayers and all whatnot, to see that this practice came to an end. However, because I conducted, it's still a work in progress, because there are some questions that are still left unanswered. I tried as much as possible to interview a lot of elderly people in the community who are still alive. In fact, the oldest person in that community is presently 105 years old. So I tried as much as possible to interview a lot of elderly people in that community. And I learned that this practice is still ongoing secretly in some families in the Umojisi community. So some questions that the research posed to some of the respondents or the persons I interviewed are still not convincingly answered. Let me put it that way. Some of the questions I presented that I'm yet to get convincing feedback on. Why did the practice last for so long? For over 3 decades. Why did the people allow it to linger? Since it brought about death, why did they allow it to linger so long until 2010? Now, the second question is why is this practice still ongoing secretly in some families? And I also interviewed my father-in-law because I'm married to this community, Umojisi community. I'm from Akwa State, but I'm married to Imo State, the Umojisi community precisely. So my father-in-law is one of the persons I interviewed. I also asked him a question. This Ukitanya Homa practice, because he said his father did it for him, his great-grandfather did it for him. So I asked the question, why this practice that has gone into a station or has ended, the families that are still practicing it secretly, what are the people doing about it? Why are they still insisting that this law, should be presented by a man whose wife gives birth to a male child? And well, it's still a work in progress. I've not gotten all the answers I need with respect to this research. So that's basically what the work is all about. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. At least you save us minutes. Okay. Please let's keeping our questions and our observations. The next person is Ngozi Ezenagu. Absent. Sheung Okwade, who is going to talk to us on cowpea and maize, theorizing the knowledge of variety of food in Yoruba land.
My name is Sheung Okwade. I'm going to be presenting a paper on cowpea and maize, theorizing the knowledge of food varieties. Balance, theorizing the knowledge of the variety of food. Balance. Of course, we have the introduction and also some literature review and theoretical framework. Then cowpea and maize. The economic advantage, both economic advantage and we stands on cowpea and maize. Then how it's the theory, the variety of food, how do they evolve? Then what are basic theoretical models, theoretical interpretation that we can bring out of it, and then the conclusion. Now, cowpea and maize are two of the staple crop all over the world, especially in Nigeria, and particularly in the Yoruba. And we know that for somebody like me growing up in the Yoruba, these crops have a major staple in different soils and eaten by members of family. And also members of family engage in conscious sense of the crop. Different varieties are prepared, and many families engage in this variety of food on the basis of
Okay. All right. Well, so
then there are many families that engage in this business, and they still have different patronage. In fact, huge patronage. They said that I know some family that they have specialized in one or two varieties of this food, and that's what they did as their whole like the business in which they have sent their work to school based on the fact that the business was thriving. Then we also have it as a source of income, and of course one of the reasons why the justification for this variety of food is complaints of diet monotony, as we are going to see in this presentation. Complaint of diet monotony, and this increased acceptance, and mothers introduce variety of food and prepared marriage menus from the
also,
like how
okay. About 6 months,
how
that's 8 months.
and
8 months after 200,000. May to December.
and epistemological basis, and the ingenuity
Here it's again around rent pressure.
different constructing different edible varieties of food
To preparation, make this possible.
and
How
also
many
build
that?
indigenous
Probably
indigenous
this
knowledge
year.
production capacity
But as is again from December, all us not trying to corner around.
from the time
You
immemorial.
watch us until this year, to December.
Now, I
For
have
8 years,
some
you know,
scholars here
January
who
to
have
December, which is 10,000 naira.
espoused one or two concepts and ideas on this subject of varieties. Then after that, 2010, I think on the basis of having the
I'm
best
not knowledge. I don't know thought.
of the best variety for
I'm doing
maximum
instruction from Carlos. Don't put the global guarantee.
food security. Then
But
we
I'm
have
not on
cowpea and maize as a
me
multi-purpose
from June.
grain legume. Then we also have cowpea leaves, bulbs, and seeds, mainly used for both the human consumption and for animal feeding, and so on. Let me go on. Then I've used two theories to undergird this research. Of course, this work is still tentative. I'm still working on it. But I've used theories of indigenous knowledge systems, and also the theory of food waste. Theory of food waste, which is derived from disciplinary of cultural anthropology. The theory of the indigenous knowledge system theory is only talking about the fact that local communities have this ingenuity, and they generate and they know how to preserve and transmit knowledge based on lived experience and interaction within the environment. Of course, they are product of the environment, and these people know how to maximize the environment, generate ideas. Then also, Yoruba farmers can also distinguish various forms of variety of cow. We have Ewa, drum, then maize, abadu. We have abadu fufu, abadu fa, and all that. Then under the food weight theory, this food weight theory actually states the fact that the culture, social, and economic practices that relate to production and consumption of food, and it's especially useful for understanding how food variety relate to identity, tradition, and social organization. There are some crops that, when you mention them, of course, because of that know from the region that that crop emanated. So what we are discussing here has to do with the environment, and that's the identity. Now, cowpea and maize, what are the economic advantage? Of course, the plant that we are considering, they have very high nutritional value. And the combination of actually one is glutinous, the other one is carbohydrates, and that form of balanced diet. Then other economic advantage, we have food security. We all know that the cowpea and maize are essential crops in any locality. Even in Nigeria, cannot rule out every family benefiting from cowpea or even cowpea and maize. It's essential. Then it's generating income. There are mechanized farmers that plant cowpea and maize in large quantity, and that is giving them income. Then employment. When people employ people in their farm, and that's also part of the advantage. There's staple food. As I said earlier, there's no way we can rule out the place of cowpea and maize, the existence of humanity. So then it has high yielding potential. When you look at this picture, we have cowpea and we have maize. It's going to have not been on share within the farm. Then the one that have been opened. We have there is another one. You know, as I was coming, I was going through the market and I was seeing those people that were selling cowpea and maize. Said this is the reality of what we are going to present. Then the variety of food. Cowpea can be made into different things, as you can see. Akara, and so on and so forth. The maize also will be tuwo, and so on, sakala, mosa, and so on. Now, the idea that we're trying to drive home in this paper is that these mothers, these aged people who had experience, and they have actually theorized some there's a theoretical backing to all these varieties of food. How did they know that from one variety of food, these multiple menus will be made? So it shows that these people, in some way, have knowledge. The knowledge production is solid to the point that they could devise different menus from a single crop. Then protein and carbohydrate, one of the most planted in balance in this same carbohydrates. Now, when we talk about both and theorizing, one of the focal points that propel this variety of food is complaints of diet monotony. You could boil maize and eat like that. Then you could also boil cowpea and eat like that. But when you continue to eat the same menu to eat, got the time that they have to improvise and to enhance blending and enrichment of nutrients, cowpea and maize are cooked together to produce. How do they know that even there will be a blend and this will be put together as a meal? That's part of the ingenuity that this law is trying to espoused. So it allows for blending of good plant protein source with a good carbohydrate source. Now, as I conclude, I'm going to interview aged people as this work is ongoing. But one of them said, Mrs. Ola Baluke attested that the knowledge of using cowpea for different food is inherited from our great mother's community. They have been doing it from the farm long time ago. Our mothers meant it and they are practicing same. Abalaye, Adayeba, Abalaye, Adayeba, meaning that it has been from you, it has been from the colonial setting before any form of external influence, where external influence arrived. Then she also emphasized that when they soak agbado in water, they will add onions and pepper. They use it to produce sapala. We call it sapala in Jerusalem. They use it as food. I knew how to make it because I inherited the knowledge from my mother, who was a seller. So the knowledge has been passing, it's passed from one generation to another generation. In conclusion, indigenous knowledge system and epistemology is a reality within the balance, and knowledge production is a valuable technology. The problem of complaint of diet monitoring is minimized and increased through, and acceptance is increased through ingenuity of models who have introduced varieties in the presentation of these tables by preparing a myriad of menus from the same heat. Elders and women are capable of knowledge with scientific backing of variety of food from single staples. And this is a product of wisdom and innovation. And the ingenuity and scientific procedure for arriving at this form and variety of food is a body value decision. Now, as I said, it's a work in progress. I'm going to make sure that I interview more people so that I can really drive home my points as I work on this paper to make it more settled. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Wijan, I'll answer that one. So let me call Daniel Buyale, who is going to present on Area 2, continuity and change in Yoruba art traditions. No, it's okay. It's okay. Yes.
This is a story of Ajapa, tortoise, and Igbo Ainopin, endless forest. Ajapa the tortoise embarked on a journey into the Igbo Ainopin, endless forest. Along the way, he encountered various animals. Chameleon taught him about change and adaptation. Monkey mocked him, saying the past is useless in a modern world. Ajapa responded to all the animals that a journey without memory is like a tree without roots. It cannot stand. The Oluigbo, that is the spiritual head, praised and rewarded Ajapa and made him to return with a shell bearing patterns of both the old and the new, a symbol of continuity and shape. Just like the Ajapa who journeyed through the Igbo Ainopin to uncover the wisdom of continuity and transformation. This paper explores how Yoruba indigenous traditions evolve through time without losing their essence. Yoruba art has fascinated scholars for over a century. Discussion often praises sophistication but overlooks the developmental journey. This study traces continuity and change across 4 Yoruba emblematic media. Ife, terracotta and bronze heads, that is 1. 2, Ere Ibeji. 3, Adire, and 4, shrine paintings. Ìrìnàjò, according to Yoruba philosophy, refers to the concept of life's journey, development, advancement, and adaptations. Ìrìnàjò becomes both a metaphor and a method in understanding how cultural practices adapt yet remain rooted. Yoruba indigenous artworks reflect sociocultural evolution. Understanding adaptive shifts enriches art historical narratives and heritage preservation. Literature review. There are literature review abounding, talking about the Ere Ibeji, Ife terracotta and bronze heads, Adire fabric designs, and shrine painting. Ballad. Continuity and change paradigm, persistence amid adaptation. Material culture theory, artifacts as active historical agents, and post-colonial lens, negotiating tradition within modernity. Those are the theoretical framework. I now want to jump to the findings of this study. And that has to do with, when we talk about the Ife heads, the first one, it talks about the core naturalism that still endures up to today, into the contemporary world. Introduction of different types of material, alloy, inspirations, and mixed media assemblage, and symbolic function that has shifted from royal icon to Pan-African emblem. And when we talk about the Ere Ibeji, it's a traditional hardwood carving. It still persists up to today. And it has become a collector's item. Then ritual relevance has gone down, but the twin iconography thrives in pop culture. And when we talk about the Adire, it's a classic type of dress. Synthetic dyes are now being used, vibrant, different colors. Fashion designers have even globalized the use of Adire in textile, in fashion, in furnitures, and what have you. Then the shrine paintings, the motifs of Yoruba deities such as Ogun, Oshun, has reappeared now in secular murals. We use acrylics, satin, and other manufactured paints to execute this type of projects. And there are community festivals that, of course, regularly support or to promote the tradition. So Yoruba art demonstrates adaptive resilience. Change coexists with heritage. Market forces, technology, and diaspora networks also shape the trajectories. Framework applicable to other indigenous art traditions, because what you are saying in those 4 areas also applies in other artworks. Ìrìnàjò of Yoruba art is expected to continue as long as it improves the people's sociocultural lifestyle. So in conclusion, this study underscores the dynamic continuum in Yoruba art forms, calls for integrated conservation policy, adaptation, and contemporary collaboration. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for that brevity of your presentation. The next person is Sunday Oladipo, and we'll be presenting on change and continuity on the existence of witchcraft in the Yoruba society. And that's my own said earlier. Now, please draw my attention to time. 15 minutes. Yeah, the
10 minutes. 10 minutes.
yeah, no, it's 15 minutes. Yeah, the topic before us is change and continuity of the state of witchcraft in Yoruba society. And in setting this paper, I have an abstract, so that will not permit me to read through the abstract, but I want it to be shown on the board. And from here, I have my introduction where I introduce the main gist of the work. Then I think the traditional belief in witchcraft, and I look at the dynamics of witchcraft in scientific work, from where I draw my conclusion. The major gist of this paper, we have to tell my story and my motivation. Please go to the introduction. It is fundamental to know that witchcraft as a concept or as a phenomenon is ubiquitous. It's found in every culture of the world, be it in the Western world or the African world or the Asian world. And it is a reality that threatens some scholar view, such that some scholar view see witchcraft as a threatening phenomenon, and which is not by way of his understanding. And the belief in the phenomena appears to be dogmatic in traditional society, because witchcraft then is seen and or perceived as a metaphysical problem. And the contention here is that witchcraft is a system that balances the light and darkness, and its practitioner knew the way that heal and the way that harm. From here, I try to bet two major orientations to witchcrafts and the anti-witchcrafts, using a Ipadot model to project my story. The idea of witchcraft occurred to me when I was still very young at primary school, and that was 1985, during dry season. We went to fetch water in the river in my community. And when we got there, the tradition was that, look, when you come from your family and you are 5 in number, if you come with 10 buckets, you will fetch the first 5 buckets, and another family will fetch their own 2. And at the end of the day, the circle continues. But this very eventful morning day, we got to the river, and when we got there, we met one woman, one old woman with her daughter, and they came with like 6 buckets. And here we were with our own one bucket. After fetching the first 2 buckets, it's supposed to be our turn. And the old woman said, no, until she finished 6 buckets. And we voted. But lo and behold, there was a big and a strong wild wind. And when that wild wind lasted, we went to the river with lantern, the shaded one. And this woman and her daughter came with Django, the naked lamb. And lo and behold, our own lantern went off, but our Django continued to walk. Well, like, and my elder brother that we went together passed our bucket and they ran away. I have to stay back. And I was trying to challenge the woman. And the woman told me that, well, you like you. And you, this boy, you are too stubborn. And before I know, it was like the whole world was put on my head. And my neck started shrinking. I didn't have any other choice than to go back to my father's house. I got there, I've not done any story. But after some body bosses, you know, in those times when you know water, you just have to wash your neck and your face. I walked straight to my great grandmother and I met her. I said, yeah, no shampoo. This thing happened. I said, one more, Mama, go back. And she told me that this comfort destroy your life. Why do you choose to engage the woman? Because I mentioned the woman to my great grandmother, who happened to be a traditional worshiper. And slowly died down there. You know, so many things will have to come to play, and I regain my senses and my personality, and will continue. But fast forward, got admitted to the university, and I have to read philosophy. And one day I was teaching philosophy, I was teaching witchcraft as a concept in African philosophy. And I was explaining some certain view. And that's where my continuity, change and continuity set in. And I was teaching that topic, I was forming, I was laying so many things to the students under my in my lecture room. And my phone just rang. And I picked the call. And the conversation started. Where are you? I said, I'm in Africa. Doing what? I said I was in the class. What are you doing? I said I was teaching students. It was in Yoruba language anyway. Kí ló ń kọ́ wọn? Mo ń kọ́ wọn nípa àṣà àti ìṣe àwọn àjẹ́. And the next thing, ibi tó bá dé yan, ó tó ẹgbẹ́. That he asked, the first asked me, what are you teaching them? I said I was teaching them about the art and practices of witchcraft. And the next thing is that where you get to, you stop here. I have to stop. And since then, I've never taken witchcraft lecture that and that takes me to the phenomenon of witchcraft within society. I published a paper on witchcraft, which I titled The Phenomenon of Witchcraft, Fact or Fallacy. That was as far back as 2010. But at that, my argument then was that the idea of witchcraft is a fallacy. But without my encounter, I come to see the change and the continuity. And that's why I saw sense in Eva Christian's definition of witchcraft as an imaginary offense because it is impossible. J. Akinyomoyajowo see witchcraft as a woman who was supposed to have a magical power, especially one who used this power to do evil, and so on and so forth. Then I have interest in Sophie B. Oluwole, who I often refer to as Maje, but she lives. She said that Sophie B. Oluwole was a mystical power, a power that exists not to be the same form of tangible phenomenon. It's not a tangible phenomenon, but it exists. And from there, I have my own conception of witchcraft as an association of people with magical power, full of evil thoughts, an organization that does not operate in the physical realm, but rather in the spiritual as well as metaphysical realm, because they are mysterious in their activities. And from there, I have the idea of this popular profession that we have at Level and affair, the good and the bad. And the activities of the witches was one that is what is. In my interaction with some elders, I was told that a witch will always be a witch. And it takes a witch to identify who a witch is. And the major thing that we use to identify witches is that when they start confessing, they own car. Also, that before you can even establish that the person that is confessing is a witch, there must be another witch around that place. And the moment they have eye contact, they will share, the two of them will share tears, and that will establish that it's true that the person that is confessing is actually a witch. And I have the two major orientations, the pro-witch argument and the anti-witch argument. So for my pro-witch argument, I argue that from the universality nature of witchcraft, it is believed everywhere that witchcraft is a cult of women, especially the wretched, the very old women. They are the ones that are pictured as being witch. But experience has shown, just like Jesse and the other man, we want us to believe that àtijọ́ tí aláyé ti dé ayé àti ẹni tó jẹ tó yó tó bọ́ síta tó ní àjẹni òun that since air has been, since the world has been, since the world go, we've never seen a woman that is well fed and come out and declare or confess that he or she is a witch. And the thinness of witchcraft relates from culture to culture. This is another establishment. We discover that this idea of who is a witch, the way it will be interpreted in Yoruba land is the same way it will be interpreted in Hausa land, is the same way it will be interpreted in the Igbo land. Then I use the convention that some scholars will even want to argue again. I use the Cartesian introspectionism that suggests that an individual knows what goes on within him. So if anybody comes out and started confessing that he's a witch, is the one that's responsible for it, was the one that's responsible for it, why will anybody handle it? But moving forward, I try as much as possible to develop some anti-witchcraft arguments that no witch has voluntarily written an account of activities, even in the Western world. Despite the fact that we are claiming that to substantiate your knowledge, to substantiate your tradition, it has to be documented. No witches or no witch or witches have ever come together to document their activities. It is existence is psychologically inclined There are so many things that goes on under witchcraft, is more or less like psychological imbalances, and that by the time we have good education, we have good healthcare system, the possibility is there that the idea of witchcraft will be seen of the. And then the convention is unfounded.
Sorry?
There is no logical basis for such. But experience has shown that it's really, then the biological nature of human being becomes such a system. Because it's believed that which meetings they change to, if they want to go to their meeting, they want to go to Ogun, they go to their Ogun, and yet their body is still remain in their bed on their bed or on their mat, and that it's a lot of clinical justification. And it's from that I move dynamic of witchcraft, scientific, the polemic of witchcraft live with us. The fact that the polemic challenges the fear of witchcraft live with us. We cannot be talking about an object when that object is not existing. Shows to us that that's why when you go to church, you pray that suffer no witch will live. When you go to mosque, you do your tajil that the witches will die. But how if the witches in their own community have their own prayer and they say that you should die, the issue will become any yalla what's for sir. That's it. Then activity that suggests its scientific nature is experience. We have class of witches. We have class of witchcraft, such as we have class of aircraft and air so on and so forth. Then the negation of human nature explains the witchcraft. Then the need to tap on the metaphysics. I don't recommend that. Instead of us stigmatizing the witches, we should tap from them and study the metaphysics of the craft. Now, by the time we study the metaphysics of the craft, we'll be able to have the positive side of it. And from there, I have my conclusion that the data used by scholars that now constitute historical witchcraft is not an ethnographic study of a people known as witches. It is instead a record of beliefs held by non-witches about supposed witches mixed together with theological agenda. And that it is important to know that the witches of any shrine, either Ajebutu or Ajebufun, are acquainted with the Yoruba saying, but you will kick in Pelayeto, Iforo, no matter how long a lion lives, the greatest lion will eventually die miserably. Hence, they also protect their destiny in assurance of their salvation within their belief system. They have this understanding and they usually guide themselves. And that's why even in their hierarchy, in their Koko, they have hierarchy and they will do their investigation for the metal activities. Just as you do, pray, go to God, and God's your
Hello?
then you call it God in the hand and those that yours. Thank you for this. We've come to the end of our presentation. The fifth person is not here, neither is the person showing any signal that she's online or is online. So it is time for us to engage our presenter. So if you have any question, okay, please let us raise up our hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think you raise up to 8. Okay. 9. Yes, 1. This is my pen.
I can appreciate all the that's the right understand. I have questions and comments. When the test is that I was sent to pray, don't know what to keep that practice. Well, if I look at it, when it was listening, when it was married, we mentioned the last where is who is of course, there are visitors. Say, how have you been humble? Who is he there? We have those things, the brother or whatever. So, and that's what how to say about the cost. That cost. Tell us what that cost is. And again, you mentioned that you present with my platform, which I can tell you how I should look at lead from that place there. But yeah, discussing the traction, I'm not looking for this. said at the point in time that church prayer, church, offer prayer. What? And I ask the question, what is the relationship of connection between the church offering, the prayer or prayers, and traditional worship, so to speak? So I said that there is a conflicting of ideas for education. He said that people, there are conflicts. He said that the king has been faded away. And the friend also said that some people judge for participate. Don't know whether that people is faded away or that still participate or they show the practices and ought not to be. And you say, oh, what are they practicing? What are they practicing? That's the first center. Second center, our indigenous level of knowledge. You don't sell knowledge to the theoretical concepts. Just level of knowledge is not theory concept, but it's theory. That you can prove it scientifically. On Mr. Ayadu, there's no destiny to do framework on Ayadu. Now, we mention of a way which I read. What's the value of a way which I read on Ayadu? I think what I can tell us about that is the continuation of our traditional practice in Yoruba arts. What are the Yoruba arts? So I'm confused with that. Comments on the Yoruba arts man and statement of witchcraft. Where I have to say that we learn based on our law of seven. Witchcraft and practice and the witches are in existence. So no doubt about that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, number two. Please be noting your questions. Number two. I think you're sorry. Thank you very much to all the presenters. I have questions for the first presenter and the last presenter. For the first presenter, I'm a bit confused. When all of these things were happening, we gave the family of that person that laid because of the where was the wife? And what was happening to the child? Who was taking care of the child? That's one. Two, there is a kind of disconnect between this person, I can't remember his name, this person that laid the course, his status, and ability to institutionalize anything within the community. I really don't get, I didn't get that part. I consider that for anybody to be able to do such a thing within a particular place, the person must have wielded certain powers, certain influences within that environment to the extent that even when he is no more, people still continue with what he had laid. Yes. Then you said that it was stopped. After the stoppage, what happened? People that were dying when it was still in existence, were people still dying after it was stopped? Or what would have made those who were practicing it in isolation continue with the practice that a number of people had left? There is a kind of, I couldn't fix all of these things together, so I wouldn't know if you'd be able to help me out in the understanding of that. But for the last presenter, yes, witchcraft, I agree that it exists. But my question is this: in all your adventure, how do you think we can use witchcraft to solve many of our national problems, especially in the area of insecurity? For instance, if somebody has a witchcraft to know that you were in class and knew exactly what you were teaching and where you had stopped, and I told you to stop exactly at that place, why can't you consult such people? Tell us where Boko Haram members are. Command them somehow to come out so that our soldiers could arrest them and perhaps kill them. You understand? Then the other thing is, but
our soldiers don't invoke the
now that is in the case of Boko Haram. We have other insecurity situations that may not be connection between the army and those who are perpetrating the acts. Then the last part of my question is, shouldn't we allow our kids to learn some accepted aspect of witchcraft institutionalized within our education system. Because I feel that one of the challenges we have as the nation is a kind of disconnect between what can actually solve our problems and what we are taking to be solutions to our problems. Some of our problems are indigenous. Let us apply indigenous means towards addressing them. Okay, let me just stop there so that I will not bother you. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This one commission. We're going around this window. How do you differentiate between okay. How do you differentiate between who is a witch and who is insane? Who is a witch and who is insane? But at times somebody is old or somebody might just be insane, young and learn because of this witch. So how do these practitioners differentiate rather than saying let different things in differentiation facility? On your own time. I'm referring to the institution of profession.
Yes.
And somebody might just be insane one way or another.
Yes, number 4.
All right, thank you. Must say this panel, they give us so much to but first, I have some issue of clarification for and sister for somebody the but your presentation is besides you, I'm not being say it's a generational transformational disforming or the discontinued and disconnectedness. That's the 2 words in the rule, when you agree to find it to give us a set of presentation on that's what you want to say that intergeneration and something that the way of your nation will be. However, that is now disconnect. So then look at the disconnect, just look at struggle and self-service. What assurance, and you still say that in your presentation say that there is some families continue, so there's no disconnection. When you look at the real sense. So you get your paper and you just feel that's one. 2, I'm concerned about that man. At the point your definition is said it was 4. And they try the community try to relate that doing that we carry out that this year and so that she will not be able to do something more. Said nature fire on him was able to get white and even gave them. Oh, nature would have fire on him. He would afford to get a wife because I know what it is to marry another. So if it can, so what would that be stopping him to for him to not to afford to get a so I think there's something is missing in the narrative. Because from what you said, it's a nature's side of me. It's people called but actually define it. But later I said nature's side of me that was able to get advice. So that means the story has changed. It's no longer more because if it was over, so I'm going to watch. So that's why in the paper you don't have access to the paper, so we don't know what your poverty, the level of your poverty income is not is. But when we say someone was poor and later interest file of the person was able to afford the wife, because people said that even the community members thought they won't be able to get the wife. I don't know if anybody got that part. Interest file on me. That means what you have changed, or perhaps maybe it's now they know that so get a wife. And then to get a wife, I think you need to extend that part was there, but that part says yes, I think Tom mentioned that. Something like that. What they did about it. They pray, and they fasting demons, and they fasting. Then what the man shows, you see that influential that you cannot lay for that. Because he said nobody can demonstrate his generation. No father, no mother. So that means the family of the community should have taken him serious. Because nobody can, there's no relative So why would you be able to place a court and it's will have no spirit? Nothing, that's that. Then the next paper, how will you remember? Yes, that also the first work that the one of single food for Roswell. So also why is it recycled? That's one. Why do we need to recycle? Because just like the safety food in among those Yoruba elites growing up, we realize that these are food. Question is why is here recycled that part? So that's my question for that. Then, okay, the area too. That professor, yes, that work. Maybe we need to see what I'm doing something on unrelated value of freedom. Then start this school in the Ghana. So probably I want to see and talk about the mention of anti-racism. Talk about it then. My professor from Africa. Beach. Yoruba usually use this word. All women are. I don't complete it.
Move on, very good.
So everyone is going to exactly. Yeah, no, but no, I just don't say you don't. I know you. Okay, all right. Okay, for the non-Yoruba that's but there's this adage, I don't know if it's adage or it's saying that all the women are from 1%. I don't want to say.
Let me put it for you. Kàkà kó sọ fún ìyá rẹ̀, ó fi gbogbo ọmọ ní òbí.
That's it for that. That's it for that one too. So that's we have different parents of this. What they say before all. How about you? You have not that all the parents are rich. That's what you want to understand. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. I was going to go and understand that. So the question is, if you are the Yoruba, can you or agree to that going? That means we shouldn't be looking too far for one. Okay. Our mothers swear, our daughters, our wives swear, but they may be, but maybe there's a age class before the guys should come to share their love. Yeah, making sense. Shouldn't be looking far. Yes, so
Yeah. You are here.
But because we must have been a painful to the class and the painful to you. So that's something like
Sorry. Yes,
Okay, yes. The name is I'm an artist. I want to talk to the first presenter. Observe that in our presentation there is no slide. I believe that slide will will get a sense of the most she has there. And that brings me to the issue of the door. A door is a tangible having coverage that community and having had that story of community. And the interesting thing to me don't understand that father-in-law who had a personal experience which the great grandfather also had. If I may right. Okay. One will expect that law, the tangibility of it should be talked about. Is it a Western God? Is it an African God? Is it the material of production? You need to know. Just now, because when she was speaking, she made mention of the fact that the tradition has been on for 3 decades. That was not my time. But when she said 3 decades. She was 30 years. No, she didn't go decades. Okay, I just want to get the clarity. Great. So what would have expected that to give us that? Then finally concerning that, you only told us that some people left the community. They left as a result of the experience. Now, one would have expected that their experience and report over there. If truly the cause is potent, I want to believe the cause will have still been manifest whenever they do, except they get the intervention. So that area we didn't talk much about it, only for him to go and tell us that some people gather themselves and pray, and ask they begin to get results. That wasn't so for me. I think when you take these issues together, that's the begin to do something concerning what was happening. The second person I want to talk about is the last speaker. The last speaker, we are talking about witchcraft. And you said at the point, you were saying if the Christians are praying or the Christian pray against witchcraft, Muslim pray against witchcraft, and that's let us assume when the witchcraft themselves, the traditionalists, traditional stuff, when they start praying, so what will be the result? And then you use the word Enigala in this case, meaning whoever is fastest will determine whose prayer will be answered. But of course, in the Christian law, that is not considered. I believe Enigala is from context. No, I know. I'm not going there. I'm only telling you that issue is known as the trickster in the Bible. And when the English translation, please don't go there. No, please. What I'm saying is
No, it's another topic.
It's another topic.
It's another topic.
We should not to that now.
That's what it's like.
The connection is not.
connection that is like this. Well, what I'm trying to bring out from that the issue of the fastest may not arise in this. That's my thinking. Then, yes. And finally, you encourage that the what's it called Africans and Yoruba or Nigerians in particular to endeavor to tap into the powers as far as the witchcraft is concerned. So for me, I want to say that you will be the very first person to be in a good position because you have given us several experiences, even when they are not too detailed. They are not detailed because we cannot get the conclusion or conclusive aspect of it. A good example is the one you gave us here. You mentioned that you are at a place and you are making discourse on a particular issue that has to do with witchcraft, and you had a call. So the personality of those who called you, their levels, you don't get that information. So for me, I feel you have this information, you can help us experiment and actualize. And when you have the job, we can take from there. Thank you. Thank you.
I think you struggle for that one.
That's because another. Yes, we get it.
Okay, sorry. Before you start this, there's something I observed. You did say that there was a paper you wrote in 2010 that you, in fact, and that paper that was so what has changed?
So many things.
So but we will need you to give us details on that.
Thank you all thinkers. And thanks to all the questionnaires and those for themselves. Most of those things are also, we're having almost the same thoughts. Let me just point out a few. That's the question. From the first speaker, thank you very much. Thank you. We're talking about a lot of places mentioned. let me paraphrase. There are expected answers. Sometimes maybe you already have an answer to what you are looking for something. That's when he's telling you what they know. You want to go beyond that. There are some things traditionally that are better. Yes. Because sometimes you go through these traditions, so they can see somebody's mouth. So if they are told you the essence, if they're giving you an essence at which they can answer your question as a scholar, just your own according to the life. I would have gone through and said, okay, since your father no practice legal, he didn't practice, so it not affect you either, because you're married. And so just allow it as well. Okay, from that very point, I want to take it to the next let me just see. So your person, we're going to talk about food. Yes, food. Uncle food. Uncle food. I was expecting my here, but I thank you so much for that. I would say that going on a lot of something. No, but some scholars here, I think for LSE, how Nigerians put outside practices. So everybody understands the language. Some things we are mentioning is trying to have direct application in English, so we can describe it so that they will know. I mean, I was not expecting my go on the rest. Because somebody like people have practice at home. I don't have to one first to make a from the Yoruba combination of Abadu and the so please, some of this were just practice English explanations. It made you, I think, when you to the six, they want to go to 60. So there's that one okay. I was trying to say that since you're sleeping with one, maybe your next one or where you're sleeping with one, we can ask with those mothers. Because like that's what I'm trying to say. To add it to it. Because I discovered the combination of avocado and the beans and put it in my rice and it's very delicious meal.
Please.
Don't worry. From the Bible, I didn't name the king. You see now. I know that means when we add precision, it's not onion. So no despite of very good. Thank you so much. We just like add English to say all right. Sorry from the
Yes.
So those are the means of producing the agenda.
No, sorry, they are not there. They are not there. I will explain.
I'm sure that one of our first men said that she started doing. Like I want to bring it yesterday, I would have loved that one of the change. So we don't just listen to me like this. I'm just trying to work that one. There are some people that were in power. And now like this. You know, then something there that like the government says that we are learning, but like another person, it's not get name of things. So we have so many problems in Nigeria. Our families will have. Why is this subject always on the evil side? Why can't you do the evil side? They have no Nigeria. I'm saying the family goes way fast. They use some symbols and this was that my so we go that so we can adjust Nigeria and our Nigeria. Adjust Nigeria help us stop or kill Boko Haram and help us to help our politicians so that our economy can be better. People tell you that you are in so this agenda can do better things for the nation. It helps. Everybody to study for it, so like food. Everybody wants to study it. But I'm not getting the lesson that you don't study. I know that you are not classified, they are not classified as the previous agenda. Our agenda is very special. We the agenda take up with us. I wish I didn't tell you. It's going to be said. My husband, my son, he's so afraid. That is the kind of agenda I have. So because of agenda, no wahala. You're very right.
Don't all with that. Sorry, our time.
Okay. To rise up, I was happy that when you were teaching, it was not phone call. Because you almost scared. I started to stop. So thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom. So, Okay, so one thing that can help them answer some of the questions that you have is find out what's the significance of the job. Just now find out the statistical significance of the job, and then people that are around the way, are they still eating dog
Or not?
or not? Do you understand?
Whether they are still eating dog, not that.
Yeah. One to three days, and okay, so that's my dog. Is it not your No, DOG. Yes, yes. So if you can turn and say, you can't stop that dog. I know, like, why you so critical to the survivor of some reason. And then why? For example, somebody runs away from the city, somebody asks me, the people that run away are this for sure. If they see its dog, they probably know how to manipulate the dogs. So you can find out the dog. You can get it. So for the yes, prof. Yeah, I have a question. And I have to talk about the short suicide. But I could not connect how that story got to all those and charity of conspiracies and those stuff. I don't know the morality of that consideration or adventure. Okay, finally, yes, you're right. I will not tell the police I found out all these years. So basically, what they said here, witchcraft and national development. So that secret, it comes together. If you watch your TV, your children learn witchcraft on you. Fire bender, light bender, water bender, what are those things? Yeah, so all those things. So those people, we can go on the internet and find out this thing. I know something that was able to solve out from the internet. How can keep down?
Thank you.
What I would say, now that you've gone through, collected data, now how do you want to implement? If now you how do you back our largest? I want that be our.
Okay, yes. I think you said you want to ask me.
So compensation of that search that you got and how
Yes, I think you.
And then for all these events, that's just wondering how your work, how they or arts work or witchcraft shapes and identities behind you.
Yes, sorry, I want to call on the presenter to do a summary of responses to all the questions that are raised.
One person.
No, we start with number one.
So this, I was going to ask you something. Let's see the picture of the how this. What's the big houses are this?
And this.
Yes. Okay. So, is it in Golden?
I will respond to you.
We will respond. Okay, we will respond.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Thank you everyone for your reactions and questions. I actually expected, when I was making this presentation, I remember saying that this is a work in progress.
Yes.
Some of these questions, I raised them. I presented them to some of the people I interviewed in UMUGC. And honestly, I didn't get answers, just like what the Gilbert has said. Some they vehemently refused to give me answers to. Just like when I was told that they were said a minute number of families that are still involved or engaged in this practice. I asked if I could, get to know those families and, most possibly interview them or interact or engage them in a dialogue. And the oldest man in UMUGC refused. So that's that. Then the Inkita, the name Inkitanya Homa is not the name of the man. The man, yes, the man that this practice was started with. His name is Chidebere Imerenini. The Inkitanya Homa simply means Inkita in Igbo language means dog. D-O-G, dog. So the Inkita Anya Homa literally means a dog presented by the father of a newborn. That's the literal meaning. A dog presented by the father of a newborn. Male, yes, because they were particular about the male child. So that's what Nkitanya Homa means.
I'm sorry, I don't think I agree with that.
Nkitanya Homa.
Yes, it's trying to tell me it's not people find out about the situation. All the industry, how about that? What I understand is that I now want to say it is a phrase and it explains what you're trying to say. It explains that you will not see the child
Except you present the dog.
Yes. It's different from it means that it's a dog or that you will not see your firstborn child. That's different things.
It's problem of translation. Indetermination.
Yes. But if you explain it that it is a phrase that explains that practice,
Okay.
not that it means that you will not see your firstborn son without a dog. That's not what it means.
That's what the phrase means. I think that's
What? So
yes.
It explains but it's not exactly what it means. Right? That's the difference. Definition.
Can get your definition most appropriate for what
She's
what? She's using sorry. It's an intervention. It's not left to her to now look whether that interpretation fit into what you are doing. If not, the implication is that we have an aspect whereby you will do your own analysis of that coinage, so that whoever is reading your work, whether it's of Igbo orientation or not, we know that the usage, the adoption of that coinage differ from this literary interpretation that she just did. So you are getting it. It is accepted.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And then just I want to mention another thing about the communities that people ask this.
Hello.
You said I didn't mention the community. These people pledge. The Delta South is made up of 6 communities or villages, and UMUGC is one of them. So the people fled to these other communities. There's Awala, there's Umago, Umudi, Okoye, and the rest of them. So the people who fled, of course, settled in these other communities. Now, about 2010.
Yeah.
Okay. I was told that in 2010 there was this increased demand, not really by churches.
Sorry, that was because you just have 5 minutes.
Okay. Okay.
The conversation continue, please. If you have not answered your question, you can stay here. The conversation continue.
Okay, let me just be brief about this. Indigenous knowledge production is a concept, and it is also used as a theory. What I presented is a concept that is relating to theorizing food varieties in balance. And the credit goes to our great grandmothers who evolved that knowledge of food variety. So that's just the something. When somebody was asking whether it is researchable, it's researchable. Anything is researchable. It depends on the creativity and the intellectual rigor that you put into it. Anything is researchable. Then explanation of cowpea, whether cowpea is basically beans. The black eye beans is basically beans.
Thank you. Yeah, doctor. Yeah. Just
Now, there is theoretical framework for this work. I cannot release everything under that short period. And the theoretical framework is one, continuity and change paradigm. That is one of the theoretical framework, which talks about the persistence amid adaptation. What we have been doing before with new things, but we still adapt a new thing and they are still going ahead with it. Another theoretical framework is the material culture theory. Artifacts as active historical agents. All the materials that are being used to produce those artifacts are indigenous, but today they are now used in a contemporary way. So there is a theory behind that. Then we can also look at it through post-colonial lens. That is negotiating tradition with modernity. So how can both of them go together? Or how are they going along? That is my theoretical framework.
Thank you, sir.
Then there is still another one. It talks about for example, the adire. There was a way we are using adire in the past. It's only one color. Arrow blue. But today, they are using dye, manufactured dye. And people are using this adire as modern decoration, curtains, bags, shoes, all those things, seats, sofas. They are now using it for it. So the traditional way has moved as if going on a journey. And they are now using different types of development. Then from wrapper, in the olden days, we use wrapper, but it's now a good outfit that you can take agbada and what have you. It has been modernized, and people are now making use of it. In fact, we have Chinese company now that are producing a direct that show the movement, the transition, the journey. That is where the Iriago came in. They started from somewhere and they are now in a particular way.
Thank you, sir.
There's one last one.
I will probably be able to respond to this one. I will be able to respond. You have
Let me just round up one sentence. All these developments shape our identity. Because when you enter a Yoruba household, you'll be able to identify all these artifacts. This must be a Yoruba person, or this must be a Yoruba lover, or what have you. So the way we dress, the way we talk, the way we decorate ourselves shows our identity. That is what it's talking about.
Thank you, sir. Because of want of time, let me just say that the first question that said that how do we change witchcraft can be used for national security? The first thing we need to do is that stigmatization. If we stop stigmatizing those that we refer to as witch, because unity is there for us to get to them and to get some certainty from them. Take it or leave it. Now, in the past, Adam will identify as a human society, but now we have to reform Ubuntu. If we adopt that style, the possibility is there for us to have to reform witchcrafts. In South Africa, they have the course now. Yeah? They are studying witchcraft in South Africa here. You can start it. But if those people that are asking that go to church, first come, first serve, the principle is there. If you go to church and you are praying, and a witch equally gather themselves in their own room, they are equally praying, whosoever first strike, if it is your God that first answer you, and if it is their own power that first strike, it ends there. Not everybody that goes to church can speak in tongues.
Yes.
Not everybody. Everything is in status and in there are levels. Process. Not everybody, not every witch can kill. A man will tell me that when you have one wife, you have one witch. When you have two wives, you have two witches. So that's just it. But the conversation continues because of our waste of time. I would have loved to answer the more, but because of our time. In all, I want to appreciate God for this powerful.